Get ready. That's fine.
Well, everyone, it's 7 o'clock, and that's on this day of June 12th, 2023. We'll start the meeting. First, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hope everyone's doing well this evening. Nice day out, that's for sure. We'll have a roll call. Looks like everybody's here except for Mayor Weinberg and Larry Julikine. Then now we'll have the adoption of the agenda. What does everybody?
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I have one item I'd like to add. New business, be number 7, the annual review for the clerk treasurer. Coming up to year in July, so. Any more discussion on that?
Will we be scheduling that, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
once we get down to that on the new business. Any more discussion? You made a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as adopted.
Get a second.
Can we get a second from?
Where is
Reed,
that?
from Bennington? Okay.
I'll make a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opportunity for discussion. I believe would be protocol.
Sure. As the consent agenda, right?
I'm just curious why now, when the personnel liaisons would generally work to schedule these out and bring them to council when they're due, and make the recommendation on when they can go. I'm curious why in the first meeting in June, when a review was scheduled, I think held in August of 2022, is that correct? Or that was the start date? December 2022 was the review, correct?
Yes.
Why were
The
the
higher date was in July.
I'd have to, again, I'd have to look. I understood it was in August. I just think it's premature. I guess I'm not understanding what the rationale for bringing it to a June council meeting is. I'd like to hear some rationale. Lee, if you could.
I was under the impression it was when clerk was hired, it was in July, and just an annual review, need to schedule ahead of time. That's the only reason. If I'm wrong, then
Yeah, sorry. No, I'd have, well, I know, I shouldn't say no. My understanding is the hire date was August. First review was in December, 6 months later, approximately or so. And without looking at the personnel policy manual, I'm not sure if it happens annually after the first review or annually on hire date. So I'd have to look at that. I'm not sure.
Table it.
So either way, if it wasn't July, it would be in August. It would be coming up soon. So either way, we wouldn't be that premature to schedule it in July.
Well, why don't we table it until we get the accurate information on hire date and what our personnel policy manual would require, and we can bring it back next month?
I'm going to call the question and ask, and make a motion that we vote on it tonight. And ask for a second.
You don't have to second.
Second.
So we hadn't voted on the first motion yet. We were in discussion on the first motion, so has that been pulled?
I'm calling the question. If there's, I think we've exhausted, our discussion at this point. I'm just calling the question and making a motion for a vote.
That's fine. Is there correct?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I'm understanding correctly, what you're voting for is amended.
Yeah, all I'm doing is voting for amended agenda, that's it, at the moment.
That's not vote on the question, it's vote on
Right, on the agenda. For discussion.
So now I make the motion to adopt the agenda, or accept the agenda as adopted.
Already been done. So we
It's
just
already, Mr. Mayor, it's already been done.
Okay.
We're in the vote.
Okay.
Yep. So all in favor of the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Against.
Okay. Okay, now we'll adopt the consent agenda items. And we do need to have some discussion on one bill for the Chisago Lake sanitation. It was for a dumpster used in cleanup in the community, which we had approved, I thought, at one other meeting, but we wanted to make sure we ran it through and got full council approval for the $225 for when we cleaned up downtown.
So do we need to make a motion and a second, and then we go into discussion on the consent agenda as well? Is that correct? We do not. Okay, so we can start the discussion. Okay.
If I'm understanding correctly, there's one item you want removed from the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a single vote. And if there's
Right.
something you don't want to discuss, or you want to have more discussion on that, you remove it from the consent agenda and you place it somewhere else on the agenda. See what I mean?
Okay. So then we would like to approve the consent agenda without the Chisago Lake sanitation bill on that consent agenda. And move it to new business. Well.
Okay.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
And then I have something on the consent agenda as well, that I guess I have to pull off at this point. And that would be the general fund balance of negative 266,324. So the consent agenda states that that is the current report as of April 30th, 2023. That's what the summary states. But in May, we had a balance of negative 151,291. And then in April before that, it was negative 78,567. So I'm a little confused. If the general fund balance is a negative 266, how can that be April 30th summary report?
So
And
Oh,
It
Mr. Mayor.
also does include some
Mayor,
of
if
Yes.
there are to be substantive discussions on any point on the consent agenda, the item should be removed from the consent agenda, and everything else needs to be voted on.
Okay.
And the item that is removed is placed separately on the active agenda for discussion.
Okay.
Sorry.
no, that's quite all right, Fritz, thank you, actually, okay. I guess I'm a little concerned about paying bills when I don't know what the current balance is in our general fund at this point, because I've got a lot of different numbers going back and forth, so,
Would you like that removed?
paying the bills, yes. Yeah, paying the bills, make it a new item number 9, based on that issue right there.
Anything else, Tim?
No.
Okay. Looking for then approval of the consent agenda with those 2 items removed and put at the bottom of the new business.
I'll make the motion with the Chisago Lake sanitation being pulled from the consent agenda and paying of the bills, paying of the bills on number 9. I'll make a motion to adopt to accept the agenda as adopted, as amended.
Any more discussion?
I'll second that.
Have a second?
Yes.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approval of the minutes of the previous meetings.
I don't believe there were any.
And then we'll,
So I'll make the motion to accept approval of the minutes.
have a second.
I'm not sure how we approve something that's not there. I guess.
Well, that's true. Okay.
We could find a way.
Let's move on to the next staff reports.
Yeah, I have nothing, so
Anything in your staff reports?
Just curious, Councilmember Troy, was this added in the back? This would have been part of the,
yeah, I could. It would actually be fire department, I thought. That's kind of why I was waiting, but I can read that real quick. Jake really didn't have anything. The fire rescue calls were 5, medical calls were 7. Total calls for the month were 12. He said at this time he has no major needs, and the training is going well, and truck maintenance and getting the gear ready for the park for the summer season. So that's the report from the fire department.
I could just give a real quick thing on Public Works.
Right.
Kevin's report is in here, but a couple of things worthy of note. He did pass his wastewater exam, and he's waiting for his certificate from the state. And I thought there was something, and we have started flushing hydrants. So we're going to develop a regular schedule for that, but right now we're putting a plan together to do that, so we're making sure we're doing it right. And we'll be posting those notices on the website when we do them, so everybody's aware. I'm not sure if there was a regularly scheduled flush program before, but we are developing one. And then I think the generator is later on the agenda.
Yeah, we'll talk about the generator, item number 6 in the business.
And otherwise, everybody can read through the rest, but I just wanted to make note of those couple items.
Thank you.
And congratulations to Kevin, I guess, for
Yep.
passing the test.
Very good. We need a motion to approve those, or is it just an information?
Those are reports.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
just reporting.
Okay. Okay, next we'll have, commission, board, committee minutes, reports.
I believe all we had was the library, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And everything looked good there to me. I did have, okay, we do have one thing I wanted to note here on the library board, is that Roger Bowman is checking with the city as to where the donation from Lowell Nelson's estate is recorded. Is that a fund they're asking about? Where it's located, where it's been deposited, who
When
gets it?
Roger came in, I showed him that it was in the library building fund, I believe is what it was called.
Okay, so that must have been after he submitted the report, I'm guessing? Did he?
Possibly, it's been weeks.
Yeah, they met back in May sometime. I don't remember when the last meeting was.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
now we'll move on to, public forum. And, we have John Tangen would like to come up and speak.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to spend a couple of minutes, I'll hurry as quickly as I can, because God knows we don't need to make these meetings any longer than they are. I'd like to talk about Mary Thomas. Since she's come back, I feel she's done a wonderful job. She inherited a lot of fires, and she's been putting them out, and I think probably finding more every week as it goes on. You're doing a great job, and as a taxpayer, I can say we enjoy what you're doing, because unfortunately, I get my bills on time for water. I would like to see, though, a little more support from the entire council. You can get things done much more with a little honey than you can with vinegar. And keep doing the good job you are, regardless of what people say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? If not, we'll move on, and we're gonna move, the first item of new business up till now for, deputy,
Captain.
or captain, sorry.
We're all deputies under the sheriff. That's all right.
And he's got some information for us. Thanks for coming this evening.
Yeah, good evening, council. So my name is Derek Anklin. I'm the captain of our patrol division. I oversee the patrol aspects. And, I suppose about a couple months ago, we were contacted regarding just kind of an overall summation or a year in review to provide the new council where we're at with what things look like for Taylor's Falls, just kind of statistically and just kind of an overview from the sheriff's office perspective. Met with Councilmember Anderson a couple times just to kind of get some guidance where we're going. And in your packets, you've got a couple of pages of stats, and I'll apologize in advance that taking an Excel document that focuses on stats and putting it on a printed page is difficult to do, so I'll try to walk you through some of that. But what we looked at is all of 2022, just kind of a snapshot of that to give you an idea for what the year looked like. Year over year, it's a pretty good gauge with the exception of 2020. We have to factor that out because that just makes law enforcement stats pretty wonky. But kind of the two things that are in your packets are, one of them is You'll notice on the bottom, it says grand total 622, and the other one says 2,093. And those are specific to calls just with Taylor's Falls with a TF address, not like a house on Victory Lane that says they live in TF, but it's in the township, but a specific Taylor's Falls residence. So the 622, that's active calls that came in as a call for service from a resident. That is a call that was sent to our office. That is, let's say somebody called 911 for, they thought someone was breaking into their house. That would be in that stat pool. The 2093, that includes what we call SIFA, and SIFA stands for Self-Initiated Field Activity. So that's going to be a deputy that's assigned to the area that maybe checked on a park or conducted a traffic stop, again, just within the bubble of Taylor's Falls. So that's where those two different numbers come from. We could spend all night breaking them down if you want, or ask follow-up questions, but that's just a real quick review of what that is. You'll see in your stat review as well on the printed pages the time of day that those calls come in at. Now the 2093 one with the SIFA, that one's obviously going to be much higher at the times we have a car assigned to Taylor's Falls as we would expect it to be. So take that for what it's worth. That's a little bit of a skewed stat just from that perspective. The 622 page, we can't control that. That's when a call comes in and when we have to respond. So we try to gauge that to kind of gear our hours towards coverage here as best we can based on that 622 number. And you'll really see that from roughly 9 a.m. till roughly 9 p.m. That's kind of the peak time. You can really dissect it down in between there a little bit, but kind of your 10 a.m. till 6, 7 p.m. is kind of the peak time of day. Your SIFA page or your 2093 page is pretty comparable to that as well. I'm not sure if the day of week one was included. Is that in your printout as well?
It is. It's the colored one, actually, packet anyway.
So the day of week one, Monday across the county is generally one of our busiest days. It's not particular to TF, but there are two factors that play into that. One of them is we still have a select group of people that wait till Monday morning to call about something that happened over the weekend. They'll call at 8:30 in the morning, regular business hours, to report something. And our Monday day cars get to go take that vandalism call that happened at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night. The other is Monday and Tuesday are 2 days of the week where Taylor's Falls sees coverage 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So they may see a quad driving by and wave them down and say, oh, I'd like to report this, or that may trigger them to make that phone call to report something that they thought was suspicious. So you'll see Monday, Tuesday are heavier days, with Wednesday being the least busy day, and then the other days are kind of pretty much in line with one another. So that's a day of the week perspective on that. That's kind of a 50,000 foot overview of what those stats look like. We can break them down by hour, by minute, and by second for ones that are needed. The full report was dozens of pages, so it was kind of difficult to put in here, but there is a digital version floating around out there that's a little easier to look at, and I can answer any follow-up questions you guys have regarding that.
Good. I do have at least one question.
Yeah.
Do you parse these out by types of calls? Medical, burglary?
We do.
Assault, those things?
Yep.
That would be interesting for me to see. And my follow-up, I guess, are you seeing any trends that A, concern you, or B, that you wish were lower?
Trends, no. So there's a quarterly newsletter that's provided to the council, I believe would be in your packets. So that kind of breaks down a little bit more of the specifics, what we call part 1 and part 2 crimes.
Yeah.
Your major crimes as far as your criminal sexual assaults, your burglaries in progress of an occupied dwelling, things like that, your major calls. It's really difficult to say trends because we could see 2 sexual assaults in a year, and we saw none the year before, and people want to know why, they see on paper their assaults are up 200%. Looking at the 50,000 foot view of that, no major trend that we're seeing. We have seen a little bit more of some public awareness to call in suspicious activity, that type of complaint. So there's a spike in that a little bit. There's been some focused areas that we've done some saturated enforcement on from public pressure on certain areas of town that have resulted in more traffic stops or more effort on that. So yes to a trend in that regard. We can break it down by individual call, it's just difficult to do on a printout, but I can either try to work with the follow-up for the next quarterly that will provide a better breakdown of those, or oftentimes, things that are omitted from that would be your check park. Almost every day, we'll use a check elementary school, for example, 9:30 and 3:15, almost every day of the week during the school year, you're gonna see that call because we ask the deputies to be in the area for drop-off and pickup time. We can certainly include that, but we just generally don't because of how much it speeds it.
Year over year, are you seeing things pretty much the same?
I would have to look at a little wider picture to give you that. So it's difficult to give you a solid answer on that right now. I used to work in Taylor's Falls years ago, roughly a decade ago. I was assigned down here, so I kind of pay attention to it a little more than that. Nothing dramatic that I can speak to just from my observations and anything that I would notice from a stats perspective. Nothing dramatic other than when you guys switched to first responders for the fire department, the medical calls obviously went up quite a bit. Things like when the lodge was built. Prior to that, we weren't getting dispatched to a lift assist, where that's probably a weekly thing now. But that's the kind of trend we're seeing as opposed to heavy crime.
Good, thank you.
Some examples of suspicious activity.
Let's say Casey's gas station, they close at 11 p.m. right now, I think.
I'm not up that way.
Someone hanging out there in dark clothing, kind of behind the business. They've got that back lot, maybe pacing back and forth at 10:45. And I'm just making something up off the cuff here, but that's, it's not illegal in and of itself, but an observing resident may call and say, hey, this just looks funky. Can you drive by, take a look at that? And we encourage people too, anything that feels out of the ordinary, call us. It does not have to be illegal. Sometimes us merely driving by and observing something is enough to, they see the marked squad and that was it.
Right. And on that, I guess I'd like to take this opportunity, if I understood the meeting that we have, is to encourage people, if they see something on a Sunday, go ahead and call.
But we're open 24/7, 365.
Because we talked about this spike on Mondays, and it's just, it seems like a lot of busy work for, like you said, you're there 24/7, so we can call anytime we need, you have a question.
Timing's great. We had a county park that was vandalized over the weekend, and someone made a report, an employee to the parks director who reported to someone. We learned about it at about 10 a.m. this morning. They knew exactly the time and when it happened. It's great to send deputies to the area when it's going on to try to connect those pieces of the puzzle, or is there a group of kids hanging out that we can question. So yes, feel free to call whenever something's going on. Much like an emergency room, it will be triaged based on priority, but it will be handled much sooner than a couple days later.
Anything else?
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep.
There. You too. Okay, first item on old business is the water bill update.
Yeah,
Timmy got something for us for that.
Yeah, as of today, payments of approximately just north of $10,000 have been made towards delinquent accounts, which is really good news. It's approximately 25% of the delinquencies. So in a fairly short period of time, we've recouped 25% of those past dues. 2 accounts have set up payment plans in addition to that, and a number of people did take advantage of the financial assistance program that we provided information for. So that's really good news. Those were people in need and could prove the need and were helped out to pay their bills. In addition, our online payment system went live. I was fortunately the first one to be able to do that. It's probably the first time in my life I've ever done something for the first time. I have to say it was really easy. It took me a minute and a half probably to do it. So I would really encourage more people to do that. It's really efficient. You don't have to worry about trying to get up here. Or like we do, we put the our check and our card in our car and we drive right past her about 10 times before we remember to drop it off. So electronic is a nice way to go. And then I'd just like to put a plug in for our clerk treasurer for things in this regard. One is alerting our customers, finding that information and getting it out to our customers who have delinquencies. It's really nice to know that, I can only imagine they didn't know it was out there before, they would have utilized it. So I think that was a great find and a great benefit that we provided our customers. And then also getting that online payment system up so quickly and have it functioning. It beat the due date of this round of water bills, but not by much. So, yes, but we did. So I'd just like to thank Mary for that and getting the website. Whoever helped get the website with a little notice up there too, thanks for that. I'm looking maybe, I know who did that. So thanks for that. But yeah, things are moving forward. It's good news. And we'll keep updating this. I would say probably on a monthly basis. I don't know if we need to do it at every council meeting, but at least monthly. If we have a big, a big improvement in 2 weeks or 2 weeks, we can report again. But generally, we expect it monthly. That's all I have.
Great. Anything more, Troy?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody that worked on that. Great job. Well, then we'll move on to new business, and we've already had the sheriff's report, so now we'll go to Boone and Robert Apel. Did I say that right?
Yep.
All right. Opening of a dispensary is some discussion here.
Got something for you guys, give a hands on update?
Sure.
Pass.
So in the packet is just kind of some information. It's not really 100% relevant to what we're doing. It's just kind of a breakdown of information that I found that you guys might find interesting or helpful. I just want to start by saying thank you for having us here today. Appreciate it. I think we spoke to the mayor originally, and he set up for us to be here. I grew up coming to Devils Falls as a kid. For me, it's a great area. I absolutely love it. I mean, we used to go to Mountain all the time, get burgers. Very fond memories of coming here as a kid. And I mean, it'd be awesome to be part of the community in one way or another, whether it was living here or business-wise. And I mean, our full commitment is, if something were to accumulate and we were able to come into town, is to be a full member of the community. We want to make sure that you guys know we're here. If you need us. So I just kind of I got a little bit of a summary of what we wanted to pitch to you guys, just kind of let you guys know what we're all about. So I'll read that here, and then you can ask me anything you want. So we want to open up a recreational cannabis dispensary. Obviously, that's pretty early in the state. I've been through the bill a couple times. Obviously, I'm not a politician or anything like that. So as best as I can, there's just a lot to it, about 300 some pages or something like that. And we already spoke with somebody who owns a building in town that's willing to let us move in, assuming everything, right? We're just trying to get our ducks in a row. And we want to talk to you guys, obviously, before we can move forward, because that's something we need to do. It's one of the places that we got permission to is the closed restaurant attached to the Springs Inn. The owner of that had let us know that he's never going to use it. It's just going to sit there. He's full storage, never going to touch it. And better to use it than not to use it. So it would bring. You guys probably get plenty of visitors from Wisconsin and Minnesota to check the area out. I mean, it's a beautiful area. Why wouldn't you? But I've done a lot of research on border town dispensaries before, and it could bring a significant amount of tax revenue for not only the state but for the local government as well. And I did write that down. Because that first sheet that I gave you kind of just shows you the estimated revenue for dispensaries, and that's what I calculated for you, what you guys would get out of that deal. Obviously, those aren't exact numbers, that's just kind of a quick calculation that I did. It's 10%, the state of Minnesota is charging 10% tax, and you guys get 10% of that 10% plus the local sales tax on top of that. We know that everything's not set in stone, there's a lot of research and work to do. And we don't know what everything's gonna look like yet, as far as the bill's concerned, how the licensing is gonna work out. They're not accepting licensing, chances are they won't even let us open until 2025. But it's a process that we're working through, and we've kind of been silently planning it in the background for a while.
Real quick, who's they?
Just the state of Minnesota.
The state,
Yeah,
state,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, we've just been waiting on the state, I know, it's been in the discussion for a few years now, so. Just fix this up. And like I said, we'd like to show the city, we'd like to show the city that we're here for the city to be open up. We wanna donate some hours to help out, clean up, stuff like that, we're here. We plan on making the shopping experience that people love, something that they will want to come back for and visit the town for. Over the years, cannabis has gotten unfair treatment, years and years of misinformation, they've given a nasty reputation. Most of the negative things you hear about cannabis are just not true. I added some health information in the packets as well. Basically, it's just stuff kind of people already know about, and so I can take questions and any concerns or.
You mentioned one of the possible locations was a Springs Inn restaurant,
Yeah.
but you said there were multiple.
The owner of, yes, sorry. The owner of the Springs Inn, he's actually, and this is just something he told us in a personal conversation, interested in purchasing the Chisago house, and that was something he had told us about. And if he did purchase it, maybe it might be an option in a back area or a portion of the building, depending on. And the only reason we like the Springs Inn better is because it's a little bit more separated from the rest of the building, and it's got concrete, it's a concrete structure, so the smell of the location won't interfere with the motel and everything like that.
So basically it's been one proprietor at this point, one person that you've worked with,
Yeah,
right? For both locations?
yeah.
Is this a new venture for you, or are you doing CBD today?
We are not selling anything today.
Industrial hemp?
No, we haven't sold anything today, not in the store front. I'm working on doing like an online hemp. We have a family history of business going down. My grandfather grew up around it, so I've kind of been waiting for this to open up for a while, because this is something I wanted to do. Just kind of inform the communities and let the people who want to use it, because they're going to use it whether we want to or not, inform the community and just let people safely have access to it. So I know a lot of the concerns that I have, people getting off the street, is that they're cutting some of the stuff that are drugs that you don't want, fentanyl and stuff like that. So it's just a safer business practice for citizens that do want to use it.
Any other questions?
You're right, this is very premature, but it doesn't hurt to
Yeah.
get your foot in the door.
Exactly, that's
We-
kind of what we knew. It was something that had to be worked out, and what we're really looking for, and we've spoken to a couple other places, just on interest, but you guys are number one choice. It's a good place for it, and we want to work with whoever wants to let us in, work through it, and make sure that we're on the same page, like what you want allow our operating hours to be. It's something that we want to make sure that's tight-knit and you guys know everything about, so.
I appreciate your transparency coming forward like this. I'm not familiar enough yet with the full bill. I
Yeah.
understand there are some things city can
Mhm.
control,
Yeah.
but it's pretty limited, I think, too.
It's very,
So we've got more to learn.
Yeah.
It's pretty new.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But I know there's people out there already going to city councils, and I figure if we get a foot in the door, you guys can hear us out and we'll be around.
I believe there will be a fair amount of people concerned about proximity to schools,
Yeah.
proximity to playgrounds,
Yeah.
proximity to where children are
Yeah.
going to be walking. So,
Yeah.
and I did see that was one of the requirements.
Yeah.
of the bill as
And
well.
I guess I've been around the area looking. I think based on what the bill says, I think that Springs Inn or the Chisago House should be okay. And I wouldn't want to open up too close to those areas anyway. I mean, obviously, it's an adults-only shop, so keep it. Yeah. And I think the Springs Inn would be a little bit better than be in the back a little bit, so it's off the main strip, so.
And you work with nobody else at this point in this community, except for the one person?
Except for the owner of the building, yeah.
I guess I don't know, Fritz, if you have any comments or questions or anything you want to say at this point? Kind of an introductory thing for us.
Yeah, it's a very big building.
Mm-hmm.
There actually are things you can do to control its location.
Yes.
What I describe it as, some of my other clients is, imagine yourself right after Prohibition got lifted, and trying to regulate a substance known to have adverse possible consequences, like alcohol. And it tracks very well as a parallel. Kinds of things that the legislature's contemplating, like cities regulate the kinds of things that you're used to in regulating alcohol. So the analogy isn't quite exactly the same, but it's close enough. That's pretty clearly the pattern they chose to follow. So there's a lot for you to do. A lot of cities have been adopting the moratorium, one-year moratorium that's in the bill that is, in effect, encouraged by the legislature. But as was indicated, it's not at all clear. Right now, they're trying to figure out how to put together the agency that will be doing the state funding. So we're a long ways away from anything happening. The cities are still taking this.
All right, anything else?
Thanks for coming here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It's good to be here. Thank you. Next item, Melissa Hall subdivision, removal of a $125 application fee.
Excuse me,
Oh,
they're having a hard time hearing Fritz. Is your microphone
We
working?
can move it closer.
And I'm a practiced bumper. So I apologize for people that are trying to listen, but I'm humble. So I thank you for bringing it.
Hi,
Hi.
welcome.
I submitted my letter. I don't know if you all got a chance to read it prior.
Yep.
Basically summarizing the experience that I've gone through and why I'm asking to waive the application fee. I can feel free to provide a verbal summary if you want. Otherwise, you can feel free to ask any questions in regards to the letter.
Why don't you go ahead and just a quick summary.
Yeah, could you move?
You gotta move your microphone a little closer there. There you go.
Yeah, so basically in a nutshell, we bought 2 properties in Taylor's Falls a couple years ago. One of the properties, the 1125, was selling a very small component to our neighbor, who is Eric's Canoe Rental. We're talking approximately 1,600 square feet, so like 40 by 40, very small portion, so he can build a very small shed to store his canoes in. This process started roughly August, September of 2022. I worked with the zoner here at the City of Taylor's Falls, was given an outline in regards to what I needed to do that and to do it correctly the first time. So we hired Wideseth, who does a lot of the surveying here in Taylor's Falls. Kelly at Wideseth was very familiar, as he has done a lot of work in this area. We got the lot line adjustment, the descriptions, everything was done, very correctly, very formal, very protocol. Then, through a series of a lot of changes here at the city, there was a lot of waiting periods. Finally, April of 2023 rolled around when we went to go close, and we were denied closing because we didn't have city approval. Anaconda Title said you need city approval, which all along we were ensured we had city approval, and there's a lot of miscommunication. So we've been extremely patient with people. ago, were very understanding of a lot of the situations that have gone on here within the city. And so then when Harry Davis was brought on board, kind of as what I understand as being the temporary zone position here at the city, he then required all these additional requirements that WISA make sure they had in their description. All of this left us, I put in my letter $400, it's actually $526 additional dollars to the already $4,000 plus dollars we've already spent on having our land correctly adjusted. So I guess we just felt it was only fair, given all that we have been through, to ask that the city waive this small $125 fee, since we were, added $526. Any questions?
Well, an apology, I apologize. That's, no matter what's going on here in City Hall, you're still either a citizen, business owner, or somebody wants to have a transaction taken care of, and that's all part of our responsibility in this building, is to provide a public service. And it sounds like you obviously waited too long, spent too much money, too much time. So, like I said, I apologize that you have been through this. We have had a lot going on in the City Hall, but in my opinion, that's no excuse. So,
Yeah,
thank you for coming forward, and thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, and Mary, also, Mary's been really, really great, and she's been helpful in trying to navigate this process for us. But, I think, like Wysa said, they said it's very lucky you are the person that this happened to, because had it been somebody else, we would not, they would have not has been as kind and as patient as we have been. So.
And this started in September of 2022,
Yeah.
right? You said there were a lot of things going on. What were you informed of what was happening here, or were you just told we can't do it, or was that a zoning administrator you talked to, or?
Yeah, so, I guess like initially, I was through email communication with Steve only, and there was a lot of email communication back and forth. And then I kind of didn't hear anything for a really long amount of time, and so then that's when I kind of started contacting Mary to try and figure out, what was going on. And it's none of my business what is going on with people either, so I didn't know specifically until just fairly recently of his passing. And then I worked with Lynn Long, is it Longnecker? Yeah, so then he was like trying to help us through the process. But then everybody was just really confused at how to proceed and to proceed correctly. And then, like I said, when it came down to closing, it was kind of a big, it was very disheartening to us, because we are people who are doing everything very correctly and are taking all the necessary steps. And then we're like, what? We can't close. And then, of course, we're dealing with another party, too, which is our neighbor. So I'm having to communicate all of this. And I have 2 young children, and I work full-time, and I don't have time to do all of this. So that's kind of the story.
Thank you for your determination.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I had some questions, but they were before I was able to read your
Okay.
whole letter, and you've answered those.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Anything else?
I think you told us what we need to know. What's everybody's pleasure?
Well, I'll make the motion, I will make the motion to waive the fee for the subdivision at 1125 Chisago Street, is that
Yeah, we
correct?
own 1117 as well, but 1125 is where the adjustment is being made.
Okay. I will make that motion and ask for a second.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, the only thing I would have to say is, there's only 3 of 5 of us here, but this isn't a $30,000 question. I'm pretty sure they would probably support this as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So just with that little qualification, that's the only comment I would have.
Okay. With that, we'll have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. And then Mary, I'll just be in contact with you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion on council minutes.
Okay, I did hand out to the other council members, there were highlights missing in the packet when it came through, so I wanted to make sure everybody got those. If anybody else wants one of the highlighted ones, just let me know. I can certainly get them out to you. It just makes it easier to concentrate and a little more efficient on what we're going through here. I wonder if I saved one for myself. Here we go. Oh, yes, okay. Got it. Can I use yours, Chris? Sure. Thank you, appreciate it. So I go in order. The agenda item that I submitted was a discussion on the legal implications of missing or unpublished meeting minutes and deadlines. Unfortunately, our attorney is here. I don't know, I really don't know what the legal implications are, and it's possible there are none, but I did want to bring them forward. As of today, we still don't have January 2023 out available. We're also missing, from 2022, we're missing February, March, April, some of March, I believe. One of these months has some of it, but there was another meeting. So February, March, April, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December of 2022. The first item I wanted to focus on was the official records. This is statute 1517, and that is subdivision 1. Official records, it says, must be kept all officers and agencies of the state, counties, cities, towns, schools, districts, municipal subdivisions or corporations or other public authorities or public entities within here, there, and public officer shall make and preserve all records necessary to a full and accurate knowledge of the official activities. It goes down later in that paragraph on 1517 to explain what some of these documents or this information might look like. The responsibility for the records is in subdivision 2. It shall be the duty of each agency and of each chief administrative officer to carefully protect and preserve government records from deterioration, mutilation, loss, or destruction, and then delivery to successor. Subdivision 3, every public officer shall demand from a predecessor in office or the predecessor's legal representative the delivery of all government records belonging to this office. Now, I was on the previous council. I don't know if any of the incoming council members have, including the mayor, have gotten to this point yet where they've demanded these records, but they have the right to do that, if I read this correctly. Statute 1303 is the next one. That's public data. All government data collected, created, received, maintained, or disseminated by a government entity shall be public unless classified by statute. The next reading is from the Minnesota Mayors Association, from the Minnesota Mayors Handbook. That is letter A in the packet, in the handbook. It says legal requirements for meeting records. Another vital component of keeping adequate records involves taking meeting minutes. There's a section here on records retention. The city must not destroy any government records that are not on the schedule without specific authorization from the state records disposition panel. So we have an obligation here at the city to hold and retain all those records and not remove them. Basically, the way I understand it is so you can access them at any time if you need to. Meeting minutes. Number 2, a statutory clerk must keep a minute book of all city council meetings. However, the law does require that the following be included in the minutes, and then it goes on to list some of the things that we should have in our minutes and should be made available. The members of the public body who are present, the members who make or second motions, roll call vote on motion, subject matter, the votes of each member, including the mayor, so they should all be recorded. Several court decisions suggest that including certain information in the minutes can help to defend a city's actions should a lawsuit occur. That kind of tells me this is kind of important. From the League of Minnesota Cities Handbook on Minutes. The only thing I really kept on there, let's see, minutes of open meetings are public records and must be available for public view at any reasonable time. Do we have some precedent of what a reasonable time is? Is there something we can go by?
Well, yeah, if you're talking about data generally, I mean, reasonable time is just a reasonable time. In other words, if it's gonna take a week or two for somebody to actually pull the records, you get your week or two. You can't use that as an excuse not to use existing data.
And that would include the meeting minutes.
Well, if they exist. I mean, a meeting minute becomes data becomes a public record when it's approved by them, and really not before. Do you want me to respond to some of this, or you want to?
I've got a little bit more, if you,
Sure,
if you don't mind. I know I did read in here at one point that a draft, approval of minutes by council, this is from the League of Minnesota Cities. Although it is not statutorily required, the council generally approves the minutes at the next council meeting. Someone may request a copy of the minutes before the council approves them. The draft of the minutes is public data, and the clerk must give out such information if someone requests it. Okay? Publication, the statutory city with a population of 1,000 or more must publish, that's us, by 55 I think now, or more must publish the council's official proceedings or a summary of them in its official newspaper within 30 days after every regular and special meeting. I don't believe we still do that in the newspaper. I think websites and the internet have kind of taken care of that. I don't know.
That's old.
That's old, yes, yeah, and I just pulled it off their website, so they might need some updating there as well. But I'm guessing that's what it is, because we have website availability now, there's no need. I think your paper would get kind of thick. And the last piece I included in the packet was a finding from our own auditor for 2022. During our audit procedures, it came to our attention that there were no approved written records of the city council meetings for multiple meetings in 2022. Our auditor mentions the criteria. Minnesota Statute 1517, Subdivision 1, which I just read to you, requires that city shall make and preserve all records necessary to a full and accurate knowledge of their official activities. The cause for this, according to the auditor, was multiple minutes of meetings that approved have not been completed for meetings in 2022, which we mentioned earlier. The city is out of compliance with the applicable Minnesota statutes. The recommendation from the auditor is we recommend that the written publications be approved by the city council as the official record of the meeting on a timely basis, preferably at the following meeting. The city needs to correct this finding to be in compliance with state statutes as well as to provide its citizens with accurate information of the city council proceedings. Thank you for giving me the time to bring that up. I do think it's important. I think it's important that not only that we have these records available and that you can get them. There's no way, it's impossible for a lot of people to find out what's going on here or what has been going on if we don't have meeting minutes. That should have everything that we need so you can exercise your rights to find out what's going on in your government, and I will let Fritz take it from there. If you had more you wanted to say.
Take it away, Fritz. Well, I found this very interesting, of course, but a couple things I think you should.
Could you speak into the mic a little bit? Thank you.
Years of mumbling. Yeah. Did you hear this now? Okay. You know, the bottom line here is, and I think we touched on it a couple of times, oddly enough, as general a practice as this is, and I will argue it has to be, from a legal point of view, there really isn't a statutory requirement as to minutes being kept and the manner in which they are to be kept. Most of what you cited was the data practices stuff. And that's all of the other data and all of the other information in the minutes once they're approved, or even in a preliminary stage, which I think is what you were talking about. What I read when I saw the auditor's report was basically a comment on general practice and good practice. And there's no question at all that general practice and good practice.
Could we do a quick timeout?
If we're using what, Councilman?
We're using 20th century technology here to record because our digital recorder failed. So we have a cassette tape today and it needed flipping.
And you missed the most important part.
I'm just testing your abilities.
Oh, okay. No, but again, you know, I don't want you to have the impression that, oh my gosh, somehow we're violating the law here when you're not. But it's certainly not a good practice, and I think that's what your auditor pointed out. And what you are responsible to the voters for actually is all of that information being there. By you, I mean you members of the council, you are responsible for all of that information necessary to determine what your actions are. Minutes, historically, are approved. They are your factual version of what occurred at your meeting. You review them, if you agree with it, or you want to add to it, or actually take something out. Those are the official record of what happens. And it requires your approval, basically, to make it your record. And that historically has been the case. That probably predates the Constitution. I mean, that's been going on in governmental bodies, and there's an obvious reason for it, because if you're challenged for some reason in what you do, or if someone has questions about what you've done, that's where you go initially. And once upon a time, that was the only place you could go initially. Now, in these days, courts are also willing to accept things like videotape, cassette tapes, just about anything else to supplement the record. It used to be the only record that a court was allowed to consider was, in fact, minutes. Those were considered to be inviolable. So I certainly find nothing to object to in terms of what the auditor said about this being something that needs to be overall corrected. I don't think there's any real question that it is in your interest as a council ultimately to get the problem taken care of. I'm not sure I know all the details as to why this has been allowed to occur, but certainly I think it should be something of a priority for you to correct it. But just so you know, the fact that it's not done yet doesn't put you in any kind of legal hazard. It's just a good idea for any of a number of reasons to get it done. Is that helpful?
Yeah. It was.
Thank you.
At the training of the League of Minnesota Cities training that I went to, mentioned that out of date, that one section on publications. They said there's a lot of things that are out of date because most cities now record, video record and audio record their meetings. We audio record ours. We've had, thankfully, citizens video record them as well. So I don't know what the process is to get statutes changed or best practices changed, but we do have audio recordings from what I understand. I hope that's true dating way back. I do think it's a best practice. It's hard to remember meeting to meeting if there was something I was supposed to do, unless I wrote it down very clearly and stamped it on my forehead. So I do agree with the best practices piece of it, and we should be doing it. And just for a scope perspective, this is for all city boards and commissions and council, correct?
It depends. depends. That's a nice lawyerly answer. It depends on what you do historically. There are places, I would think for an important commission, for example, like the planning commission, you would expect to see minutes.
Right.
Because you as a council would expect to review those minutes to understand what the planning commission had done. And others could probably say exactly the same about your own minutes. Other kinds of bodies that are answerable to you may have that maybe to a lesser degree. Their minutes may not be formally approved. They may consist of a staff member's report to you or somebody else about what occurred. And it has the same effect, I suppose, as minutes, but not nearly as important as, of course, your official minutes of your meetings.
Yes, I think as a council, we need to make that clear to our commissions and boards as well. I think it would be helpful that we're all held to the same standard. And also, I've looked at minutes going way back, and some are literally a play-by-play. And when you read what's actually required, it's almost nothing. I mean, you can't read anything into it other than what the item was and who voted for it, basically. Who first, second, and who voted for it, and the basic, description of it. So I think we should make it clear what we expect to. I thought some of those minutes, my gosh, I mean, I think they literally transcribed the meeting, which seems overkill to me, kind of a waste of time. But we could give some direction to our staff on what we would expect too in that regard.
Mr. Mayor, if I can respond. It's indicated in some of the materials that were quoted that in fact there is a variety, but in way back, like when Lincoln was president and I was just starting out as a city attorney, those minutes, professionally speaking, were supposed to be short. There was something wrong, and we were told as lawyers, there's something wrong with you if you're allowing, as if we could ever do anything, allowing a city to go more than two pages. It was supposed to be succinct, it was only supposed to describe the actions, and it was the official record. Well, people would challenge that and would challenge an action on the part of the city and say, well, where in the record can you justify that decision? And what the courts did over time is say, okay, well, that's the official record, but we'll let you supplement that record with other information. In other words, at a trial, in a courtroom, where you had to prove what you did. And it wasn't that hard, but still, it added a burden. And so I think cities over time have decided to put more information in the meetings, or in the minutes rather, so that somebody could get some of the detail and some of the nuance and some of the rest of it, while still having the basic council approval for what factually occurred. So that evolution has occurred over time. But like I said, when I was starting out, we were told, don't let them run
just
run wild with all the, just keep it brief. And that's not true anymore. For that reason.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion?
No, thank you for the opportunity to raise awareness. I'm willing, however I can legally, in any way, to help. I mean, I obviously can't take the minutes because I'm a council member, but if there's something I can do to help the rest of the council, administration liaison to move this forward so we can caught up, I'm willing to do that. And thank you.
Council member, I wouldn't want to deprive you of the experience.
Taking
I served a city where the note-taking was done for a substantial period of time by a member of the city council who happened to take shorthand. And the person that normally took it was on leave for about 3 months. So
No, yeah.
it's possible.
Yeah, well, they really don't want me to be taken. Guarantee you that.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next item. Considering declaring commercial lot property at 680
Chisago Street a permanent public place. Anybody wonders where that is, it's the old site downtown by the drive-in there. that the city owns.
The old Minda.
Old MnDOT site, yes.
That's mine too. Okay, thank you. I kind of summarized this. I had a couple attachments to the packet. Basically, this lot has sat vacant for 12 years now, at least. 2010, I think, was the first action was taken on it. What I've included is a timeline of the loans that were taken out by the city for this commercial lot property. I've also got the repayment agreement for 2010 and 2013 are in there, and the parcel reports, how much they're worth, and the audit reports, which is basically, this comes from the audit 2021, 2022. This is how much we still owe on this property. So all that information is in there. The total loan amount on the property was, beginning in 2010, was $195,000. So the city has taken out $195,000 loans for this property. The current value of the property in 2023 is $90,000. So we've lost $105,000 right there. And the remaining debt that we still owe on this as of 2022 in the audit report is $145,000. So we're not really getting anywhere with this, and I just thought it was time that we give this council the opportunity to basically turn this property back to the people and make it a permanent public space. We've already been using it for Wanigan Days. There's potential for a farmer's market. There's a lot of, we've already had a ice rink there in the winter. There's a lot of things we can do with that property, and I think we should give it back to the people at this point. It's been, like I said, 12 years. We're not getting it, we're just losing money on it. So that is my proposal, and I guess I can make the motion that we do that we declare the property, 680 Chisago, the property IDs are in there, that we officially take it off the market and declare it a public space. Ask for a second, and we can go into discussion. Can I get a second?
Do we have to get a second before we can discuss it?
Since you have the practice of seconding,
Okay.
the answer is yes, you do need that. I would have to discuss it.
Can I get a second so we can discuss it?
I believe, could the mayor set second?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I'll second. Discussion?
So just a question, Troy, are you looking for a decision tonight on this? Okay, so I think a number of things. I've had, all of a couple hours to look at this, and it's a pretty big decision, and there are two of our members absent tonight. So I think just out of common courtesy, we wouldn't make a decision this large tonight. But simply, as you quoted, giving effect to people doesn't limit our future liability costs. We're not spending any more money today, from what I understand, than we would be if we decided to turn it into a park, although we have to develop it and spend more money. It's also the last developable piece of property we have in the small town district. So I'm quite curious what economic development would have to say. I'm very curious what our planning commission would have to say about this. I think it's very premature and skips a number of rungs on the ladder to make a decision here at council, saying does anybody else have any kind of input on it. And I'm still confused reading through this, and maybe there are more documents on what the 175 or 195, whatever the dollar was, on what that bought us. So I understand it included maintenance facilities back here, at least the state facilities, if not our garage. I'm not sure about that. I just have a ton of questions that I wouldn't come near feeling confident or qualified in making any decisions to make, along with the fact that our other commissions would not have had the opportunity to weigh in, and how this might impact our comprehensive plan. Just a lot of unanswered questions in my mind. It's a pretty major decision to make in this short of notice. That would be my position.
I have to agree with Tim. I think we should wait till the other members are here and look at it a little bit closer. It's a big decision.
I mean, if I could make a friendly amendment, I would say let's toss it to economic development and planning for input. It's kind of their job to inform us and recommend to us on issues such as this. So I would like to give them some time to weigh in on the matter and come to us with a formal recommendation.
One of your concerns was that we have a full council here to make this decision, because you feel it's a big decision, and I guess it is. I see with the value. I don't see the current value going up. We're just losing money on it. Personally, I don't see the real estate market improving very much, where this is going to be a really hot item. And the main thing with me is what we've done is we've borrowed the people's money, and we've held it for over 12 years and done nothing. In fact, we haven't even talked about the grass that we planted. It was a year ago. It didn't go anywhere, and that was up in the thousands as well. One thing I would be willing to do is postpone this to a definite period of time, which would be our next meeting. That would give the commissions the opportunity to look it over if they want. We could have the vote at that time. It would give everybody the opportunity to look over all the information that's in here, possibly ask some questions, and bring them to that next meeting.
I think that's always our prerogative. And the reason I mentioned we don't have a full council, I'm not saying we have to have a full council every time we make a decision on something. I think that would be kind of irrational, but big decisions like this have two members, including our mayor, who's the chair of both economic development and planning, or is our liaison to those, I think is an important consideration as well. And as far as losing money, I guess I fail to understand how we're losing money. It's a zero interest loan. We're still going to own the liability for the loan, regardless of what we use the property for. If we were to sell it, at least we would recoup some of that. The other thing you mentioned, real estate market. From what I understand, our mayor has had 2 conversations with people now interested in the business park, which I think has been, silent for a long, long time. So I think things are coming back. We had a presentation tonight from somebody who wants to come in and do business in our town. Things happen outside our area of purview that impact what might happen. So I think now would probably be a poor time to consider this when we have time and we're not really losing anything or at risk of anything right now. So putting it off for further consideration and input, I think is a good idea.
One thing you mentioned is we own the liability, the property, the loan, the money.
Yep.
Right. And my question is, who is we?
The city of Taylor's Falls is listed on
Right.
what I read.
And the way I read that is the people. So that's where we're gonna have a philosophical difference on this, because when it says the city of Taylor's Falls owns the property, or owns the loan, that's the people's money.
It
That's
is.
been invested.
I wouldn't dispute that, but if we turned it into a prairie grass field, we still own the loan. We still own the liability of the loan.
We being the people of the city of Taylor's Falls. So I guess my objective is to turn this back to them and give them the opportunity to enjoy the space as they see fit, whether it be picnic tables, farmers market, ice skating rink, volleyball. And the other thing I think it would be good is if it gives a sense of community to downtown, and we can even justifiably slow down some of that traffic that's going by there as well. What I can do is I withdraw my first motion, and if I can make a motion to postpone this agenda item to a definite period of time, and that would be our next meeting, our next city council meeting. And ask for a second.
Second.
I'm just not, I don't know what Brandon's schedule is, I don't know what Larry's schedule is, I don't know what planning commission's meeting schedules are. Are you wanting to bring it back for a decision, or just further discussion?
We'd be bringing it back for a decision at our next city council meeting.
Yeah, I couldn't support that. That's too quick again. That's only 2 weeks away.
I didn't even know, is it, we're gonna have another one in June?
I assumed we were.
Okay.
I think we talked about that.
Okay, well, then
Well,
Oh, not, okay. Oh, was that in July then we're going to have this other? Oh,
Well, there's, which we skipped over, they want to call a special meeting for the conditional use permits and the subdivision, which is on the 28th, but it would just be specific to that, not the rules.
okay.
So I guess if I would call the question, and we just, unless Lee has anything else he wants to add, my motion still stands second that we postpone it to
July meeting.
definite period of time. July city council meeting, I can go with that, okay? I make the motion to postpone it till definite period of time, being July, whatever it is, first meeting for city council.
Second Monday. I don't have
So it'd be July 10th.
Correct, July 10th. And I believe we have a second already. We can go. Okay.
Okay. Voting on postponing the consideration for the commercial lot to July 10th meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Move on to the next, generator email from Public Works. Have you talked to Kevin at all about that?
Just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, the guy from the company that does the service work on the generators for backup for the wells and the lift stations and that, came with the generator at the lift station out by the ponds. The part that's needed to fix that is obsolete and no longer available. So, of course, then right away, well, you probably have to get a new generator. Well,
I've been helping Kevin a little bit with it, and I told him, get the part number, and I'll research it some, because it's only got 165 hours on it. So, I've been looking into that particular generator a little bit, but I need to know that part number, and we'll see what we can find and get it fixed.
And this is for lift station number 2?
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically in a nutshell, that you got an email from their company saying that they tried to outsource it or find it, and they said that they couldn't. Well, I've been looking online a little bit, and I can find some stuff, but I just need more part number. Kevin's gonna get that for me, so, and I'll do a little research on it before we do anything major.
So this agenda item is informational at this point.
Yep.
Just so everyone is aware, it does run. It
Yep.
runs about 3 minutes.
And then shuts
And then
off.
shuts off.
Yeah.
So we'd have to babysit it quite a bit. So it's a smoldering bridge, not a burning bridge right now.
Right.
That was my question about that.
And we do have a portable generator, you know. And you can rent portable generators as well. So,
Right.
you know, if something significant happened, total failure, we can have a plan ready and,
Right.
and have that operable, so.
Right, so that's where we're at on that. Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. The annual review for the clerk treasurer. We were gonna discuss that some more.
So if I understand this, we're scheduling this, we're looking for a date? Or
Well-
what?
The way it looked, the way it sounds, we need to look to the personnel record, or personnel, and see where the annual review needs to be done. I had my information wrong, I think, because I had thought the hire date was in July,
Well, then I'll make the motion that we schedule the annual review for the clerk treasurer exactly 1 year after the hire date, as soon as that's found.
Second,
Okay?
any discussion?
So if this is in conflict with our personnel policy, would you still hold that? Would you retract the motion? Or would you go forward despite the fact that it would be against personnel policy? Because I don't know. I thought it was a year from, I thought we went annually from review to review, not based on hire date. That was my impression. Once hired, it was 6 months.
It's my understanding, and city attorney helped me out here, but council could actually call a review anytime they wanted to.
That's true.
Correct, okay, so,
That's true.
so, anything else, okay?
No, I mean, it's something that you can do. I mean, normally these things are handled, I say normally, but often I'll say these things are handled by a policy or practice. And if you have a policy or practice that you follow, I'd suggest you continue to follow it. There's no reason, unless there's a compelling reason to change that. I would suggest that if there is a policy in place that says that you're at a certain time, that you follow that. If there isn't one, then I would think that you are certainly within your discretion, and normally that would be expected after a year. Something doesn't have to be precisely the date, but in large measure, there would be a review of some sort. Normally, the employees would expect it and want it. There's a chance for feedback.
Right. So I guess I'll stay with that motion, that we schedule a review, make a motion to schedule a review and have a vote to schedule a review for 1 year from the hire date.
Do you want, if I could just ask, do you want to make sure that it's consistent, in other words, provided that it's not inconsistent with policy?
That,
We should
that was
look
gonna
at
be my
policy.
comment. I mean, if we're gonna hold it, if we think, well, Mayor, what was your hire date, your actual hire date? August something, right?
July 11th.
Council jumped ahead and they did July 28th, but I wasn't expecting to start until August, so it was a surprise to me at the same time.
Okay.
Mary, if I can say, you were hired on July 11th at the council meeting, and you said, I can start in a couple of days, but I will not open the window until August. And if we had clear records,
You know,
minutes, we would know.
I don't know. I wasn't expecting to start on as a full-time clerk here until August, and there was miscommunication, so I don't know what happened at the council meeting, I was not here. So I'll have to go back and look at the tape, or at the tapes or whatever.
Well,
So I'm just throwing this out there. If we're gonna hold it in August sometime, why couldn't we add this to the agenda for our July meeting? That would give us some time to make sure what Mary's actual start date was, what our personnel policy manual states is our normal protocol, and we still have opportunity to hold it as scheduled, if that August date is actually it. Still put us a month out from review date, so that would be my suggestion.
I will actually retract my other motion, make another motion now, that we actually schedule the review for the clerk treasurer on July 11th, 2023.
On the basis of audience participation.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for your participation. July 11th, 2023, and then ask for a second.
Second.
If there's more discussion, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take anybody's role, but if there's any.
So I'll just go, I'm gonna go back a little bit why I didn't, just so the audience here knows why I was not in favor of this being added to the agenda. I'll stand on what has been stated in our practice, that it had to be time sensitive, and or if not acted upon, would put the city at risk. I don't think either of those is the case here. I think it's Councilmember Annenson's third or fourth attempt to get a review in on Mary. For some reason, I'm not sure, and he decided to do it tonight when two of our other council members weren't here. Vice Mayor, you agreed to that, and I just want to state that for the record. There seems to be a pattern, and I'm not the only one who sees it. And I just want to voice my very firm rejection of this type of activity on our council. It suits no one's good. Throws more fuel on a fire that's been simmering for a long time, and I just don't understand it. I fail to understand the vitriol that's been directed at Mary. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I can't support this.
Oh, one correction, it was actually Councilmember Samuelson that put this on the agenda. So it was not me.
But you both you made the motion, you seconded it. That's what I was referring to. And it's going to come to a vote. So I guess one of you could prove me wrong and vote no on this. I have my doubts. So I'll tell you right now, I'm voting no. So it's up to you guys how you want to handle this.
Any further discussion?
I think I've made myself clear.
Okay. We're going to take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those not?
No.
Okay, so noted.
And just to clarify, that's July 11th, that was the motion that was was put forward for the review.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Approval of the bill for the Chisago Lakes sanitation. For when there was cleanup day. Any discussion? Is that a motion or-
Sure, I'll make that a motion to pay Chisago Lake Sanitation LLC $225 for the Taylor's Falls event, for this small group of residents in the community that help clean up the city downtown.
Need a second?
I will second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's a little bit more clear in the future, that the city is going to pick this up and that we do include it in our budget as for 2023. If it's something we want to continue doing, the city could let back the community group that we will be picking up the tab as part of our contribution to it. I think Paul worked that weekend too and helped out,
Yeah.
but it is much
Yep.
appreciated.
Paul did a good job, he got the street sweeper out and
I think it's the least we could do.
helped out. Okay, have a vote, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. On to the next item, the bills.
Okay, thank you. So what I was going to go back to, I'll go back to the general fund. I guess I was wondering why our balance, if this was the April 30th balance, why is it now negative 266, 324? We had, in our April meeting, we had, and the fund cash balances was printed on April 4th. It was negative 78,000. In the May 8th meeting, it was 151. And now in the June 12th meeting, we have negative 266, 324 in the general fund. But the summary for the consent agenda says that this is the April 30th fund cash balances. So I'm kind of confused how at the end of April, as far as in the April minutes, we had 151,000, and now this is also the end of April fund cash balances, and now we have negative 266, 324. My question is, how much money do we have in the current balance in the general fund? Do we know?
So the note that I put on the agenda item here is to just let you know that the May bank reconciliation has not been completed. So yes, that does include some of the May expenses that we put out there. However, it's not formal because the bank rec's not been done. So again, in the past, I've explained that you have to take utility billing, the payroll, everything has to merge over. If there were payments or anything that came in from the state that were missed, that I haven't reconciled on the bank statement, that would all add to that. So what I was trying to explain is the fund balances may not be accurate because I have not finished the May bank reconciliation. And then, as previously stated, other council meetings, we will be running that negative balance until we get our tax settlements from the county, because if we don't have money coming in, all those numbers are reflecting in the expenses that we have.
And we do show almost $670,000 positive cash balance. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes,
So did those taxes come in?
they come in July.
They come in July, so they're not in yet.
No,
July and
they're collected in
December?
June.
July and
Yes.
December, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're collected in June from,
Your property tax?
Okay.
Or actually in May, I'm
okay,
sorry,
right.
in May, when you pay your property taxes, May and October.
And then the state reimbursement comes in as well. Maybe-
Yeah, and I don't know the date on that right off the top of my head.
Okay, so I guess my question still stands, do we know what our balance is? Can you, I mean, we're about to pay bills here, we're about to, again, spend the taxpayers' money, and I guess I would like to know how much money we have in that fund before we just blanket approve. I mean, I think it was 102,000 or something, right? We got $102,414 in checks that we're gonna be paying.
I don't know how you want me to answer. At the bottom of this sheet, it tells you how much money the city has. I'm not writing checks to bounce anything. Everything goes through the mayor before anything is done.
Okay.
So I don't know how you want me to answer that
Okay.
yet.
Okay, and from a budget perspective, we're, which I don't have my budget handy to me now, but we were fairly close to being on budget with the exception of the receipts from the state and county in the general fund.
I haven't looked that close at it, but if you looked at it.
I'll
I
say
will
that,
agree
Mary's not saying that.
Okay.
So it is just a timing piece. My guess is, if we looked a year ago, it probably looked very similar, but I wasn't on the council then.
Yeah, everything looks negative until you get that money from the state and the county.
But I think what Mary is saying, our cash availability is sufficient to pay the bills that we have. And our fund balance would indicate that as well, being upwards of $600,000.
Total fund balance.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So then it was this amount, is this, so that's not correct, that's not what we really have at the end of April 30th, the cash fund balances. The 666 at the bottom is, but the general fund is not accurate. Correct?
Everything on the cash balance sheet is not through the end of May, because we have not reconciled the bank statement. So I could be missing expenses on this sheet, and I could be missing revenues on this sheet. Until I finish the final bank statement, then I won't know. But anything has gone in there for expenses, anything that has gone in there for revenue is reflected on this sheet.
Okay.
It's just not reconciled yet.
Okay, so some of these are correct and some might not be, is what you're saying,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
But we're not off by a factor of 0.5, for example. We never have.
I would
that.
hope most of them, it is in there, I've been up to date. We're reconciled through April, I just haven't finished May yet, so.
Okay, that was my questions on that.
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. Have a motion to approve bills?
I'll make that motion to approve the portion of the consent agenda that was moved independent of the others regarding fund balance and billables.
Second? I'll second. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. Take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passed. Okay. Well, that's everything,
Mr. Vice Mayor, I
Yes.
have one thing. We do need to schedule a special meeting if you want to move forward on that subdivision. Otherwise, she will have to wait until July again for closing.
Oh, okay, well, let's,
The planning commission meeting is, the public hearing is on the 27th, the day before.
okay,
Bolton and Mink did indicate they could get all the information ready for council
okay. So then it would be on the 28th, we,
on the 28th. I believe it was 4:30. agenda sheet.
$4:30, you said?
We're verifying that.
Okay.
Your choice, 4:30 is what I wrote on there for the pot. So they, the mayor indicated the earlier the better, otherwise he'll have to vote and leave right away. And he did speak with Harry, and I believe if he's gonna be here, he can make it at that time as well.
At 4?
Yes.
Is 4 okay for you?
On the 28th, Friday?
No,
Yes.
that's a Wednesday. That's a Wednesday.
That's a Wednesday.
I have to get in the right month, 28th. 4 o'clock or 4:30, what did we say?
4 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, yes, I'll do my best.
Okay. So we need to make a motion for that, or what?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to have a special meeting on the 28th at 4 o'clock for approval of this, what was it called?
The subdivision.
The subdivision. Like make, can I get a motion?
A second? I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I just question, council will have an opportunity to review the planning commission's recommendation then?
As soon as I get them from Harry, I will send them out. Also, on the bottom of the agenda or the conditional use for the planning commission, for that public hearing, there is a note that says possible quorum if council wants to attend.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay. Vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pass. Any liaison or council member reports?
Nothing further.
I did help the guys with the well inspection out there. I fixed the vent fan for the chemical room, so they had more time to work on two other things, and I've been looking into that generator deal.
Thanks.
Okay, I have a motion to,
So, can I just,
yeah.
there's correspondence, is that, I think Michelle emailed us something, is that something that was in the consent agenda, or was that?
I was thinking it was just any emails or anything that came in, is what I was thinking. I'm not aware of anything else.
Just based on our last council meeting, we agreed to publish any emails that were received, and there was one, it's in the packet.
Right, okay.
It was in all our packets as well.
Right, okay.
And we could request those too if we needed them. Any previous emails, correspondence, or that's all public information, so.
I suppose.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody's got?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
In a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.